Namandam, namandam. Namandam, 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 namandam. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Dharma family service. We'd like to begin service with chanting of Juseige, which is on page 23 in the small purple book and page 93 in the large purple book. Namandam, 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 namandam. Gagon Josegan Hishimu 浄土志願不満足政府上昇学がお無量公不意大摂取不採小便具政府上昇学が至上仏道妙所長実法苦教未所門政府上昇学利欲人少年上映主凡行しぐむ浄土一生天人し人力現代公不所無才道少女三苦妙交際主役難回避知恵言滅死根も安閉塞小悪道通達全宗門高僧上満足異様の実法日月主時期天候音符言一種解放像公正苦毒法上大師中説法ししく供養一切仏具足主徳本元年出上満得意三害を如仏無下地通達未不詳願学エリック投資最小尊志願や国家大戦王感動国書天人東珍妙慶ナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブがんにし苦毒平等正義祭道法 shin ojo an dako. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda. Okay, next let's recite the three treasures, and it's on page 3 in the small purple book. There it is. The three treasures. Hard is it to be born into human life, now we are living it. Difficult is it to hear the Buddha Dharma, now we hear it. If we do not deliver ourselves in the present life, no hope is there that we shall be freed from suffering and sorrow in the ocean of birth and death. Let us reverently take refuge in the three treasures of the truth. I take refuge in Buddha. May we all together absorb into ourselves the principle of your way to enlightenment and awaken in ourselves your supreme will. I take refuge in Dharma. May we all together be submerged in the depth of the doctrine and gain wisdom as deep as the ocean. I take refuge in Sangha. May we all together become units in true accord, in a spirit of universal oneness. Ooh, sorry about that. Let's do it again. May we all together become units in true accord, in your life of harmony, in a spirit of universal oneness, freed from the bondage of selfishness. Even through myriad ages of kalpas, hard is it to hear such an excellent, profound, and wonderful doctrine. Now we are able to hear and receive it. Let us thoroughly understand the true meaning of the Tathagata's teaching. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda. Okay, thank you very much for joining us for this is actually our last Dharma family service of May, and it's kind of our last one of the school year, because next week we're going to have Memorial Day weekend, and we'll do a kind of afternoon service here on Sunday, and then the week after that is graduation service, and I think that's going to be more like a Dharma school kind of service. So here we are for our Dharma family service, and I'd like to begin actually with a quote from the writings of Shinran Shonin. So please join me in Gassho. Mida no myogo tonai tsutsu, shinjin makoto ni uru hito wa, okunen no shin tsune ni shite, button houzuru omoi ari. Those who, uttering Amida's name and truly attaining Shinjin, always mindful of the Buddha, wish to respond to the great compassion. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namo. Okay, so what I'd like to talk about today, my theme is basically compassion and mindfulness. Compassion and mindfulness. And so, we're still kind of thinking about Shinran Shonin's birth, right? The birth of our founder. We did our Gotane service last week, and our guest speaker was our bishop, Reverend Marvin Harada. How many people were here for that? Okay, so did you notice we did something different today than last week? I think. See, I'm not even sure about my own memory, but can you think about anything we did different so far? Three treasures? Three treasures? I think last week it was, let's all rise and recite the three treasures. Didn't we stand? I mean, I'm always standing, so I kind of don't remember. But you remember standing last week for three treasures, right? We don't normally do that these days. We didn't do it today, right? We just sat and recited the three treasures. But up until the pandemic, maybe a little before that we kind of stopped, but it used to be the standard was, please rise and we'll recite the three treasures. And we haven't been doing that. Did you notice that we stood last week and that we didn't stand this week? Right? It's one of those things when it's like, if you haven't been here when we used to stand, you wouldn't notice. Well, you would notice, why are we standing? Right? And then, it's kind of back and forth. So, but that kind of awareness of doing something different, I think often we're not aware until it's pointed out, right? And then when I say, I think we all stood last time, because I remember our chairperson, Robert Noguchi, saying, please rise. And I was like, oh, you're going to stand up and do the three treasures? Okay, I remember when we used to do that. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about. And in terms of Shinran Shonin, again, it's been over 850 years since he was born. I believe he was born 851 years ago next week, this Tuesday. Right? And so Shinran Shonin, we observe his birthday in the solar calendar, and so over 850 years. Right? And over 800 years since the founding of Jodo Shinshu, of our school of Buddhism. Right? And so I'm wearing my Shinran Shonin Memorial Wagesa that is actually for his memorial, but I still kind of associate it with Shinran Shonin. And it's, to me, it's really amazing that we are still thinking about Shinran, still talking about Shinran, and especially that his teachings can affect my life, that my life has been deeply touched by Shinran Shonin's teachings. So I want to share something that happened to me recently. Oh, I didn't put it in my notes, so I'm just going to do it from memory. I went to a meeting. Surprise, surprise. I go to a lot of meetings, and so I went to this meeting. It wasn't BCO meeting. It was a different meeting, and we're doing the meeting, and towards the end, I'm starting to kind of space out, right? Not that that ever happens, right? But and I realized that the person speaking is kind of crying because it's their last meeting. It's their last meeting because they're retiring. And so during this meeting, they were offering their thanks and appreciation, not just for the meeting, but for years of service, for years of support, right? Years of being involved with, and I'll tell you, it's Institute of Buddhist Studies. Okay, where I went to school, and I went to grad school there, and so many of our ministers trained there. It's had a huge impact on Buddhist churches of America, Jodo Shinshu in America and in the world. Right? And so this person, I think, was really moved in expressing their thanks and appreciation at having been able to serve there for so long. So I realized, wait, I was kind of crying too. But I wasn't paying attention. Like kind of in the moments coming after, I was kind of looking at myself and thinking, whoa, I wasn't paying attention. And I started crying. And then I kind of snapped to attention and realized, oh, I hear what they're saying now. And so it was really interesting to be moved to tears without really being intellectually aware of what was happening. I wasn't listening to what they were saying. In all honesty, like I caught myself, whoa, I wasn't paying attention. What's going on? Why? Wait, I was crying. Why? Oh. Right? And so it was just a really kind of interesting experience to me. And I said it to another person I know at the meeting afterwards. And then I realized, whoa, maybe I'm an empath. I don't know if you watch Star Trek Next Generation. Right? But not the original Star Trek. I love Star Trek TOS, the original series, right? But Star Trek TNG, the Next Generation, right? That's a different crew, right? It's Captain Picard and Commander Riker and Commander Data and all these people, right? And one of the characters that is often, I think, the least respected is Counselor Deanna Troi. Right? And so she's really interesting character. I actually like her character a lot. Maybe I kind of her character resonates with me because we might think she's Betazoid, right, which is this telepathic race, but actually she's half Betazoid, right? She's half Betazoid, half human. So she doesn't have the full telepathy that like her mother has, Luxana Troi, right? That she has only this kind of empathy. She can't hear people's thoughts. She can only do it with her mother. That's part of their relationship, right? She has the telepathy with her mother. Everyone else, she's not telepathic, right? Telepathy would be able to read someone's thoughts, hear what they're thinking. She has this empathy. She's able to feel what people are feeling. And there have been empaths in original series too, and it's an interesting idea, huh? So empathy, right? Empathy is often put in contrast with sympathy. Right? You've heard the word sympathy, right? I feel such sympathy with this person. Empathy is kind of like another level. And so that empathy, to be able to feel what someone else is feeling. Do you think that's what I did? Do you think that's what I was doing? Am I an empath maybe? Because I'm also half something else, but not in terms, well, it is kind of in terms of race, because they think about in Star Trek, right, races like Betazoid and Vulcan and human and Klingon and Romulan, right? But not going that far, I'm half Japanese and half white, right, as far as race, right? So that kind of being half something, right, is something that I've experienced in my life, right? And it's not only race, it's also ethnicity. So I would consider myself maybe 3/4 American and 1/4 Japanese, even though my mom was Japanese from Japan and my dad was white Anglo-Saxon Protestant from America, right? And yet, I spent most of my life, I think, in an American cultural kind of sphere. Right? And yet, I think that there are things I absorbed from my mother and things I absorbed from living in Japan of being kind of Japanese. But not the full half, because I've spent over 3/4 of my life in the United States. And even when I went to high school in Tokyo, it was the American school in Japan. So most of my friends were American and, So anyway, but this kind of interesting thing of being part one world and part another world. So that's why I was wondering, maybe I am half Betazoid, right? Maybe I really was picking up on these emotions, right? Because seriously, for some reason, I was able to have some kind of awareness that something was going on. And I realized after focusing on what was being said that I was already feeling emotions, right? I was already feeling this something, sadness, that was moving me to tears, right? Before I was consciously aware of it. So I'm going to tell you, I don't think I'm an empath, right? I'm not sure that it was empathy. I think it was more sympathy, right? And maybe one way I should have brought a guitar. One way we can think about sympathy is what's called sympathetic vibrations. Right? And so if you have a piano, normally the piano, like all the notes are muted, right? That they have these kind of, the string is here and there's like a felt pad holding the string so it won't vibrate. But there's a pedal you can push that lifts all of those up. And then if you play a C with all the pedals, we can't do it with the organ either because it's electronic. If we had a real piano, we could do it, right? If you raise those felt pads off and hit a C, all the C's start making noise. Actually, a lot of the strings will start making noise if they have similar harmonics. Right? And so you can hit that one note, and then the whole piano will be vibrating. That's sympathetic vibration. Right? So the vibration from one will cause the others to vibrate. Right? It's probably something to do with physics. So I think that's what was happening. Right? That the sadness. And it wasn't sad like something terrible had happened. It was a deeper kind of sadness that I think was coming out of gratitude, coming out maybe even of Shinjin, of the mind and trusting in the Buddha, right? And that emotion was vibrating in me, that I was having this kind of sympathetic reaction to what was being said. I almost feel like when I became consciously aware, that it kind of tamped down. Like when I kind of understood what was going on, it kind of stopped. It was like I was more open to this sadness, but not only this sadness, whatever the emotion was that was moving someone to tears, it was moving me too when I wasn't consciously aware. Right? And I can even see that kind of the tamping down. So I want to share just a little bit. I was very fortunate to study. One of my first teachers was Tai Tetsu Unno, also known as Tai Unno. And he was a professor at Smith College in Massachusetts, and that's how I was able to go visit him before I moved out to California to go to Institute of Buddhist Studies. And he's written several books, and so recently I've been reading this book, Shin Buddhism, Bits of Rubble Turn into Gold. It's his second kind of popular book that he put out. The first one is called River of Fire, River of Water, but this one, Shin Buddhism, Bits of Rubble Turn into Gold. And there's a great quote in here. I read it, parts of it, long time ago, and it kind of like jumped off the shelf to me. So I've started reading it again, and here's what he says. The question most frequently asked of a Shin Buddhist is, what is your practice? As a Buddhist, the obvious answer is the practice of compassion. Our task is to manifest compassion in everyday life, beginning with members of our own families and extending it to all of society. So that's pretty amazing, I think, right? So that question, what is your practice? One answer could be, oh, I say the Nembutsu, right? I recite Namo Amida Butsu, because we don't meditate, right? There's a lot of stuff we don't do, but one thing we do is say Namo Amida Butsu, right? So in one sense, our practice is recitation of the Nembutsu. And to me, that would have been the obvious answer. But he says, as a Buddhist, the obvious answer is the practice of compassion. Part of compassion is being open to the feelings of others, which is something that we normally don't do, right? It's hard enough sometimes to feel your own emotions, but to be open to feeling someone else's emotion, right, is not easy. And yet, he's saying manifesting compassion in everyday life. But then the interesting thing on the next page, I hope I can find it. Okay, I'm going to go to the book. Thank goodness I brought the book. All right, and I got to see if I can read it. Okay, so practice of compassion, right? But when one really tries to practice compassion, expressing care, concern, empathy, and love, all the while respecting the autonomy and dignity of the other, one encounters a huge obstacle. And the obstacle is never the other, but one's own self-centered ego. This awareness is the starting point of the Shin Buddhist path. Right? Wow. Right? So first saying the goal, right, the practice of a Shin Buddhist is to practice compassion, to be compassionate. Right? First to members of our own family, and then to all of society. And I think we could maybe even say all living beings. Society implies humans, right? But in Buddhism, it's not only humans, it's all beings. And so, okay, right, wow, how am I going to do that? Right, I have to, and so that's maybe one aspect of being Shin, is trying to do that, trying to be compassionate to others. Being open to the emotions of other people, being open to their pain, their joy, right? All the different emotions that we go through, and being open to that. But then this aspect of my own ego gets in the way. That's why I think it's kind of interesting to realize when, right? So this person starts crying, and I'm moved to tears by it. But when I become consciously aware of it, realizing that those tears stop, right? So that my intellect kind of got in the way, right? My consciousness of what was happening kind of got in the way. And maybe, I don't remember exactly what I was thinking. I don't think I went this far, but it could have been, come on, crying at a meeting, right? Really? Really? You're going to do that? Now, these aren't really thoughts I had in my head, and yet I can taste them a little bit. Right? And come on, I don't want to cry. Wait, I'm crying already. Okay, well, you know, maybe I don't want to cry. Right? He could have sang, "It's my party and I'll cry if I want to," but just part of the. So another part of being Buddhist, I think, is this kind of mindfulness. And so I think it's been interesting. I've had a couple experiences. I talked about one a couple weeks playing music, have this experience at my meeting when I can have a kind of awareness of what's going on in my head, right? And this awareness of my emotions, this awareness of my thoughts. But then I love this question. What part of me is watching which part of my emotions? How do I do that? How can I be in my head, right? And see, oh, I'm crying, right? What part of me is doing that? And what other part of me is crying? What's going on? So if I was going to be really mindful, shouldn't I go behind the me that's watching? And there's another me? How do I do that? And actually another one of my teachers, Reverend Dr. Dennis Hirota, brought this up once at a seminar, right? Maybe that's what Shinran faced. Maybe that mindfulness, master your mind, be compassionate, remove your ego from the equation, get out of the way, right? How do I do that? If my ego is the problem, how do I get rid of my ego? It's impossible, right? Because what's I, right? Who am I? What's going on? So in one sense, that kind of investigation of my thoughts, investigation of my actions, investigation of my feelings, awareness of all these things is part of Buddhism. But Shin Buddhism, I think, is also recognizing that I can't get out of the way. Either I'm going to get stuck in my head. What should I say? How should I react? What should I do? Right? Am I going to just be second guessing myself all the time? Sometimes I do it. I tend to be kind of intellectual, I think, and stuck in my head. So maybe that's one of my issues. Right? I think everyone's different. But to be too much in your head, that's not the right answer. And then even if I could do this work of negating the ego, getting rid of the three poisons, doing all of that, right? I'm not sure that it's certainly not possible for me. And I think that that's part of the path that Shinran Shonin opened up for us, revealed to us, and the Jodo Shinshu, Honganji, Buddhist Churches of America is making available to us, is a path where we can become aware of these things. Right? And I think an awareness of myself, we might call it self-reflection, self-awareness, right? I think that's a good thing. But it needs to be in balance, and I'm not sure that I can turn that into the way I live my life. And so we've been given this Pure Land path, right? This path of Namo Amida Butsu, where it's not that I don't do any of that mindfulness stuff or don't try just be kind of unaware of myself or mindless. Right? I think there is a mindfulness that we do, but we live our lives. Just live your life. And yet, that includes self-reflection. That includes trying to be open to the thoughts and feelings of others, especially if I'm the one impacting them in a negative way, in a hurtful way. I don't want to do that. But earlier in my life, I'm not sure I was aware that I didn't want to do that. I'm not sure that I cared. Right? And so, we're learning these teachings of compassion, of trying to help others. Right? Shinran Shonin talks about it as caring for beings just as one wishes, trying to help others just as I wish. If only I could help others as I wish, the way I want to. And Shinran recognizes the difficulty. It is extremely difficult to accomplish the saving of others just as one wishes. And yet, we continue to live our lives, continue to try and be kind to others, right? Continue to live this life of awareness, but with the key element being Namo Amida Butsu, right? Saying the Nembutsu, reciting the name. And Reverend Harada last week put it in terms of thank you, huh? That was Harada Sensei, right? He said, what? Actually, I have it here. For those of you who were here last week, I have Freddy the Frog script. Remember Freddy the Frog last week was asking questions? Here they are. So Harada Sensei was really nice to write the questions so that Freddy the Frog could read them easily, because they're on the back too, but it's really small. So Freddy the Frog's like over 30 years, I think, so probably he needed to see it a little bigger, right? And so Harada Sensei compassionately wrote the questions for Freddy the Frog, right, on the paper, and one of the questions was, right, about Nembutsu. What is Nembutsu? Why do we say Namo Amida Butsu? And one answer is this kind of thank you, right? It's saying thank you, but saying thank you to Buddha, most especially. right? Saying thank you to Buddha for someone like me who, even though it's very difficult to be compassionate, even though it's very difficult to be truly mindful, and yet embraced by Buddha's compassion. So that, I think that results in this response, trying to respond to Buddha's great compassion. So thank you very much for joining us for our Dharma family service, thinking about Shinran Shonin, right? 850 some years ago, born, right? Still thinking about him, still thinking about the teachings. I hope that we try and take these teachings into our everyday life. Because that's one of the key things in Unno Sensei's statement, trying to be compassionate in everyday life, right? Not just something for here. And so why don't we conclude with this poem, once again, from Shinran Shonin. Those who, uttering Amida's name and truly attaining Shinjin, are always mindful of the Buddha, wishing to respond to the great compassion. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. So Steve, were you moved to do a Gatha? Which one? Okay, so we're going to do a special place. I believe that's in the blue binder. Yes. There it is. There is a square upon the floor, an island in a sea, a place I visit every week, a spot that's just for me. When I sit upon that square, I leave my cares outside. All anger is forgotten. The Dharma is my guide. There is a special something here. It's something you can see. For kindness lives within this place. It lives inside of me. Amida stands inside the shrine, a smile upon his face. I smile right back, I'm glad to be here in this special place. Now there's time to sit and think of all that I can do to care for those around me each day the whole week through. This is a home to gentle thoughts when sitting quietly. For kindness lives within this place. It lives inside of me. It lives inside of me. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida. Okay, now let's call on Robert Noguchi, who I mentioned earlier, to do the announcements.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? Better? Okay, great. Thank you very much, Sensei. Good morning, everyone. Nice to have you with us today. What a beautiful day it is today, isn't it? Boy, So thank you very much for coming to the Buddhist Church of Oakland. I have announcements for those who are online. We'll be able to see them. For those of you here, you just get to look at me, I guess. So, but thank you. First, thank you to Reverend Harry Gyokyo Bridge, our resident minister, for his Dharma Talk and officiating today's service. Steve Terasaki for playing the organ. Our host number 3 group, which is providing hospitality for this morning as well as in the Dharma chat today. And our Zoom crew downstairs taking care of the online presentation and YouTube broadcast. As I just mentioned, we'll have Dharma chat following this service at 10:45, and everyone is welcome to attend. And we're kind of on a tight schedule today. There's another meeting happening at 11:30, and Sensei has another engagement out of town this afternoon. So if we can go ahead and move into the Dharma chat in the small chapel as soon as we're finished, that would be really great, help move things along. As far as what's coming up next Sunday, as Sensei mentioned, our Memorial Day service will happen at 4 o'clock Sunday afternoon. That'll be after all the cemetery services. And if you need a listing, it's in the Bushin, page 13. In the Bushin has the full schedule of all the cemeteries that Sensei will be stopping at over the course of Friday and Saturday.
Can I just add to that? We will send out a constant contact email about that. And I might ask for RSVP. Especially some of the sites, we're never sure if someone's going to come or who's going to come. So keep an eye out for the email later this week.
Okay, thank you, Sensei. And then the following Sunday, June 2nd, as Sensei mentioned, our graduation and a Hatsamairi service will be at 10 a.m., followed by the Shotsuki service for June will also be that day at 10:45 or 11 around that time. So Sunday, the 2nd, is going to be pretty busy. And it's also the last Dharma School service and Dharma School class for the 23-24 Dharma School year, and then we'll resume again in September after Labor Day. The next Dharma chat, as I mentioned, is coming up at 10:45 as soon as we're finished here. And then the next study class will be Sunday, June 22nd, the weekend after the bazaar, from 1 to 3 p.m. On Introduction to Buddhism. And speaking of Introduction to Buddhism, that will be a new class that we're offering here at the Buddhist Church of Oakland on Saturday, June 22nd, the week after the bazaar, from 1 to 3 p.m. With Reverend Bridge. So everyone is welcome to come. And speaking of the bazaar, that's happening on June 15th, next month, from noon to 6. We need workers for Friday and Saturday. So if you're able to help, please see John Takagaki, who's downstairs, or sign up in the office and mention that you're able to help and when you can do it and what you can do. And also, John just ran into me in the hall downstairs, and he said that he'll have posters. He has the bazaar posters are finished and printed, so they're sitting downstairs in the foyer. So don't hesitate to pick one up and take it, post it in your office or in a place of business or something like that to promote the bazaar happening on Saturday, June 15th. And actually happening today, speaking of bazaars, the Berkeley Buddhist Temple Satsuki Bazaar is happening today from noon to 6. And I know they closed the street from 12:30 to 3:30 today for entertainment, live entertainment. So food, entertainment, beautiful day. So why don't we all stop over and see our friends at the Berkeley Buddhist Temple and support them. We'd love you to be a member of the church. If you'd like to, there's information downstairs, the Sangha community brochure, or ask any one of us about being a member of the church. Okay, and that's all I have. Thank you very much for all your support. And we accept any donations, large or small, and you could do that through the PayPal application on the website, buddhistchurchofoakland.org. Or through the plates here. So with that, thank you very much. I'll give this back to Sensei.
Right. Okay, thank you, Robert. Why don't we conclude our Dharma family service so we can race over to the small chapel for Dharma chat. So let's conclude with Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda. And you can come up and Oshoko if you have not had a chance to already.